Howdy, howdy everybody, Chris here. We're back in the garage today and we're working on the Chevy Camaro. Today, I'm gonna go through the step-by-step process and how to prepare your primer for paint. If you want a beautiful finish, you have to properly prepare your primer. Make sure all those waves, any high spots and waves are eliminated, and sometimes that can be challenging, so I've got some tips and tricks for you here. This particular quarter panel has a lot of contours in it. So it has the natural contour here, but it also has a natural contour right in the center that rolls. But if you look, it has a natural contour right here that comes along into here. That makes it a little bit more challenging to block. In this particular panel, we're not going to use a real long block. We're going to use a medium to smaller block to get this panel straight. It also has a sharper body line than most. As you see, this body line right here comes down nice and sharp. We got a little fade out in this right here. It's not quite as sharp. So we need to sharpen this body line up a little bit. I'm going to share with you how we do that. If you look at this closely, it drops down. So it drops down here. It's not too high, it drops down. So we need to run a piece of tape at the peak of this body line straight down to here and block up to that tape. And we're going to block up to that tape to sharpen up this body line. We've got 3 coats of primer on here. We're going to use the primer to sharpen that line just a bit. It's not going to take much. We also need to block out this contour here. I took quite a bit of time straightening this quarter panel, making it right. So the most we're going to have to block out is a few minor waves. I'm going to put some guide coat on this and we'll show you how to do that. Let's lay down some tape on this and start blocking. So anytime you're doing this kind of work, you really want to get a good feel for all the contours and body lines in this panel. I would recommend taking a look at the opposite quarter panel. So if we go over here and we look at this quarter panel, right here is that contour, and you can see it in the light. Right here is where that contour comes down. It's kind of like a little bit of a curve right there, and it flattens out right here, where it's contoured here and then it flattens out. You need to take that into account when you're blocking, when you're doing your body work and when you're blocking out your primer. What we're gonna do is lay this piece of tape, and this can be a little bit challenging sometimes with these light shadows, but we wanna try and lay it right on the peak of this body line. I've got another tool that I'm gonna break out here and show you. This tool is designed to help create body lines. As long as your lip is the same width all the way around, you can use this tool. It's not perfect, but it's just like anything else. It's going to be a tool that's going to help you. And the way you use this is you set the width, and then you just run this tool down your body line. Now this is going to run out right about there. So it starts to turn right about there. And I had to create this with the tape. So then I just ran the tape along that pencil line, and now we can block this. Now I've already started blocking it. Right here we have a little bit of low spot. You can see that where that pencil mark is. So what we're doing is trying to use this primer to block that out. We might have to add some primer, or we may have to add just a little bit of glaze or something of that nature. These are minor details, but they make all the difference really when you're trying to do an OEM type repair. Now let's pull this tape, and you're going to see where that low spot is still. So right here. Now what we can do is come back to this side and block down to this line. Let's run some tape on here to this side. We're going to follow our pencil mark down here until we can't any longer, and then we're going to follow the peak there. Now we can block down to this and sharpen up that body line. Now I'm going to run some guide coat over this while we do this so I can block this as well. This will help us to see that body line as well. So the goal of blocking out this primer is to get everything straight, to remove any scratches that might remain, And then the other thing is to smooth out this primer and get a smooth surface to apply our paint to. And this is going to show you all your imperfections. And I know there's a ridge here, so I'm not going to sand right on that ridge because that ridge runs right here. Boom. So we're going to sand up to that ridge, right? We don't want to flatten out that ridge, then it wouldn't look OEM. See all that texture we're removing? Perfect. Now here, we're going to do a little bit longer strokes because this is basically flat. A little bit concaved right here, and it's bowed here. So, but this block is small enough that it's going to sit flat in all these areas, unless we're right on that ridge. So here, we want to go this way because we're in that concaved area. I don't want to sit right on that concaved area because now we're not going to sit flat. We're not going to be blocking it correctly. We want to block into the curvature of the quarter panel. So it's all about changing your direction of how you're blocking for the situation you're in according to the curvature of the panel you're working on. Let's see if this is starting to straighten up here. Now this section right here we can block. Now it starts having a curvature here. Now eventually we'll roll over this, but we don't want to flatten it out. We want to block everything else first. You can actually see that body line now. Now right here we can block on. Contour doesn't start till about up here. This has a little bit of a ridge, but it's not quite as pronounced as back here. And that's what I mean by knowing your panel and knowing the contours that you're looking to get. It's really kind of half the battle, is understanding what to do in those situations and the contours that you're working on. All right, now I'm feeling something weird right here. There's a little low spot here, and it's a little higher here. So we're going to do a little block on this. I think we're good on this now. And now you can see that point is much better. Got a little bit of tape glue on there. Now we'll use 600 just to round that just a touch before we paint it. So let's block down to this line now. This feels good. We had a little bit of body work here, so we want to make sure this is straight. Now this, we can roll over this now. So I'm kind of easing up the pressure when I roll over the contour. I don't want to put heavy pressure right on this. We got a little dip right here. Little high spot right here. Good. A little one right here. This is a little high right here. So if I put some of this guide coat on here, let me show you. This may or may not show up in the guide coat, but if I block right here, you're gonna see a little low spot there. So what I want to do is block this high spot down right here and see how it's starting to flatten it out. I'm blocking it into this low. So I'm blocking this high spot down into this low. You don't want to go through the low. You want to hold your block flat. And that feels beautiful now. Now we got another little spot here. Blocking this high spot into this low. We'll clean up all these edges with 600. I'm feeling a little high spot right here. You got to develop a feel for this, guys, with your hand, because guide coat is only going to show up and show the low spots if you use the block properly. Let me repeat that. Guide coat is not going to work properly if you don't know how to use the block properly. Meaning, if you're sanding your block into the low areas and not knocking down the high areas, you're just going to sand the guide coat out of the low areas. Now, some of you might say, well, you use a longer block. Well, in some situations you can do that, but in this situation you can't, because this has a roll this way, it has a contour this way, it has a ridge running through the center of it. So there is not a longer block that you can use on this panel. You have to feel each section of this, each contour, and block it in a different way than the other contours. I guess that's the best way I can explain it. And you got to feel in all different directions. I don't like how this feels right exactly here, but low spot right here. So that means there's high spots around it. We got to block those out. Block it into the low spot. Block the high spot to meet the low spot. Yes, don't block through the low spot and take out that guide coat or take out any material on that low spot. You want to block the high spot down. I got to put the block on there where it'll lay flat on that high spot, or else it's not doing what I want it to do. Okay, that feels good. Now what we're going to do is we're going to use 600 to run over this, knock down those 320 grit scratches. We're going to use an interface pad. We're not looking to take a bunch of material off. We just want to sand out scratches. to refine those scratches, so when we apply our base, it's not going to soak into those 320 grit scratches. It's going to have a nice uniform 600 grit scratch, which will be enough for it to adhere properly, but it's not enough that the paint is going to soak into those scratches and show. Spray this down with some isopropyl alcohol. Take a look at how it looks. Let's soak it down and take a look. See if you can see how straight it is. This is a good way to check how straight it is. They have other materials that you can check. See that light in the background? You don't want that to be distorted. If you see that being distorted, so you follow those lights. And you can see how straight it is. See that natural curve? If you look at that window, it flattens out over here. So, let's look from this way, see if we can get it. Looks pretty good. Let's run over this with 600. Okay, we got our orbital sander. See the interface pad, that foam pad in there? That's going to allow it to flex as we move around this quarter panel, move over the contours without digging in. 600 grit sandpaper. This is Sunmite sandpaper. Really like this sandpaper. It's reasonably priced, but it works really well. Wash it one more time. We'll check it one more time as well. Now this time we're going to be looking for scratches that we might have missed. Now you could wet sand this. A lot of people like to wet sand it. I prefer to dry sand because actually primer is porous. It does absorb moisture. You could wet sand this. I prefer to dry sand it. Primer does absorb moisture. It won't absorb alcohol, but it will absorb moisture. So we've soaked this down and now we're looking for any scratches that might be on here. And this looks really nice to me. I'm not seeing any scratches. This does emphasize scratches when you wet it down like this. I think we're good to go. Listen, I hope this information was helpful. If you're looking for a digital guide that talks about different types of primer and how to use them in different situations, I've got a guide available for you at GarageNoiseGear.com. We also have guides on how to spray clear coat, how to lay down metallic finishes, how to straighten metal, and how to use body filler. Listen, I appreciate each and every one of you watching. Make sure you got that bell notification turned on so you don't miss the episode where we paint this Camaro. We'll see you on the next episode of Garage Noise.